everybody. My name is Eric McLeod.
And I'm Chris Holden.
And you are listening to LowBlowRadio podcast. We are going to bring you the blow-by-blow of this evening's Impact's Slammiversary 2020. Something a little different here on LowBlowRadio. We don't talk a lot of Impact Wrestling usually, but hey, this is their big culmination of all their storylines and there was a lot of talk about this event, so hey, we figure we might as well cover it here on LowBlowRadio.
I love hype, and this got more hype than any Impact Wrestling thing I can remember, short of Tessa versus Sammy. Frankly, so there was so much anticipation for who was going to show up from the releases from the 90 days ago, and then of course midnight last night, a couple days ago, the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows announced that they would be appearing and then they had signed for Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
We knew they were going to be there. It was just a matter of who else is going to be there.
That's right. Yeah, no, they definitely did a good job of trying to set everybody up for this, whether the fulfillment to everybody was there or not. We'll see as we get through the blow by blow here. But no, they did a good job to get everyone sort of hyped up, I think, for this event in these sort of times where it's hard to get people amped up to want to watch a live wrestling event and that kind of thing. And for just getting more eyes on the product, I think they did a pretty good job of doing what they could with the way the wrestling world was right now, and how coincidentally this date of this event ended right as all those guys were coming up for contract. They did a good job to sort of play off that as best they could.
Yep.
So
that worked for them. The fact that it's Extreme Rules weekend as well, I don't think that hurts. It gives the wider wrestling audience the chance to enjoy a whole weekend of pay-per-view wrestling. Yeah, and that for me was good enough reason to tune in as well. I like wrestling, so to get 2 nights in a row of quality matchups and with story and all that stuff, yeah.
No, for sure. I always enjoy when the sports can kind of piggyback off each other. Like when you compete on the same night, it can be a little bit tough, and then sometimes it can certainly hurt one person more so than the other. But I never have a problem with just trying to fill up a whole weekend with just getting people excited for something, right? It was the same with Bellator's on a Friday night when I knew a UFC was coming up on a pay-per-view Saturday night, right? So no, I think a nice sort of cohesion here in the wrestling world, and let's get to the blow by blow here of Impact Wrestling Slammiversary. What did we kick off with?
Kick off with Josh Matthews and Don Callis on commentary. And they bring us up to speed with the Rascals. Early in the day, Des and Wentz, they've issued an open challenge. And Josh and Don are selling it hard that this is probably going to be our Good Brothers debut here, because they've signed as of midnight last night. The big announcements happened. But this is going to be a night full of surprises galore.
That's right.
The beginning of the, not letdown, I don't want to say that, make it sound like it was a letdown of it, but they kept on what they've been selling now for a good month of who are we going to see, who's going to appear.
Yeah.
And then it just began right away with that. We got a return with the Motor City Machine Guns, who are tag team royalty, I suppose, in Impact Wrestling and TNA. Alex, Chris Sabin. Sabin's been working on Impact or at Impact as a producer behind the scenes. He hasn't been on screen in quite a while. Mm-hmm. And Alex most recently was with Ring of Honor, I believe.
Yes, I do believe he was just there.
So
Sabin had done some time at the Performance Center too recently as a working with people and that kind of thing too. So he had been sort of on the outskirts of the wrestling industry and talking about being less and less of an on-screen performer. So it was very, very cool to see him back in the ring here and the reuniting of the Motor City Machine Guns. Yeah,
Shelley was in the Dusty Classic as well, the last one.
Right,
so his WWE rub, I guess.
That's right, yes.
I thought it was a decent match. Right off the bat, though, just as a reminder, in case you've forgotten you were watching Impact Wrestling, Don Callis' microphone didn't work for the first 3 or 4 minutes. So
was this live then? I didn't see any live signatures or anything. No, but they had a lot of technical issues. So well, that makes it even worse then. That's even more confusing because they had a ton of technical issues tonight. And if this wasn't live, why didn't you just retape things?
That's been a question mark so many times. I know that's been an issue that Matthews brought up on Botchamania before. Is all the different mistakes, and then a note. This was pre-taped. So imagine if they went live, what you'd have to go through. But anyway.
Oh boy, wow, that opens up a whole different can of worms, I think. But anyway, let's get back to the match.
I thought it opened off with a very the Rascals doing this kicking combination kick work on the machine guns, and it was very deliberate and very slow.
Right.
And very obviously choreographed to the point that detracted for me from the match. I thought the Motor City Machine Guns were slick and smooth once a good 5 minutes into the match, and they were getting some of their offense in together in their double team stuff.
Right.
Some of that looked great. They looked slick, looked like they'd gotten it together. I thought the Rascals looked very green, and they look like they're too scared they're going to hurt their opponents or scared they're going to hurt themselves with something, because everything looks so measured with their striking and their kicking. I know that nothing's supposed to hit and hurt and land, but I'm also know that I'm not supposed to be thinking, wow, that was off by a long shot. That was really weak. So that distracted me quite a bit from it.
No, I can certainly see your points to a lot of that there. I'm not as familiar with the Rascals. I mean, I don't watch a ton of TNA, and I try to catch what I can. I do kind of remember the crew and stuff like that, especially when we get to Trey in the main event and that kind of thing. But it seemed like they were trying to wrestle a Motor City Machine Gun style match. I don't know what their traditional style is, if it's kick heavy, if it's like in that sense. Like, to me, it just seemed like they were trying to show up these sort of veterans that, like, oh, well, this is our take on your sort of kicking maneuvers and that sort of approach to it. And then, they just sort of the cocky vets showing them up each time, right? And showing that they still have a lot of class here in the match and that kind of stuff. So, but no, I certainly agree. There was a lot of sort of like slowness to the Rascals that didn't lead to the like intensity that a hot tag opener could have, especially with the Motor City Machine Guns.
It was way too deliberate, I thought. It suits a team more like even with Private Party. Like, imagining what they would done, what they've been doing in some of the openers recently on AEW, where it's so fast-paced and energetic. But I'm still feeling like there's that high intensity, and I didn't feel the level of intensity from the Rascals. And I think the Machine Guns brought it.
Yep.
But a lot of that's probably as well the excitement for them getting back into the ring. Experience plays a lot into it, I think, too.
No, for sure. It seemed like they worked Chris Shelley early, and then it just was a lot of just, the cocky vets just kind of taking over the match at that point, laying a ton of those great synchronized kick moves and that kind of stuff. So, good to see that they still have it, the Motor City Machine Guns. And when we get to it later in the night, like if the idea was to bring them back to give them another run or push in that degree, then it makes sense that they weren't here to just show up and put the new young guys over. So I mean, in that sense, I guess if you were trying to have your return be more in the idea that you're trying to reinvigorate your tag division than just focus it again on bringing one more team in, I do kind of like that they went a different direction here and swerved everybody with not just opening up with the Good Brothers coming out and getting.
I agree with that.
A hot tag team here, and I mean, as far as I was concerned on the night, like the two hottest things were just their knockout division and their sort of rebirth of the tag division. So those two things being focused on it, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, the Rascals certainly need a little bit more work in there. They certainly maybe aren't as familiar with Shelley and Sabin, but if it can lead to more matches down the road, it's not a bad thing. They've got an interesting gimmick and that kind of stuff. So
no, I think you're right. I think it's a good strategy from Impact Wrestling to look at wrestling in general right now and say, what's hot? What are the fans talking about? Well, the AEW tag division being the only tag division in wrestling and being so strong, that's a big focal point. We can not maybe compete, but we can highlight ours to that level. We can definitely do better with our tag division than WWE does with theirs.
Yeah.
Maybe can't touch either side on their single star side, but we can do it with the tags. And we can do with the girls, we can come up to where WWE is with that. We can try and approach that better. So definitely smart on their behalf to hit the two things that strategically they can see are working for other companies, make it work for them where they've got a chance to make more of an impact, right?
Absolutely. Well, hey, what a great transition. They're talking about Impact Wrestling. And let's talk about the TNA Impact champion competing in the next match when we had Moose taking on Tommy Dreamer in a TNA Impact championship match.
An old school rules.
Old school rules. It was an old school match that he kept saying, which was so confusing. And then they just kept saying there were no rules. So it's like, well,
Yeah.
then just tell me that there's no rules. Don't say it's an old school match. Old school matches had rules.
It's a hardcore match. It was just hardcore rules. I don't know what. Yeah, old school rules meant hardcore rules. I don't know.
Like no, tell me no DQ. Tell me like whatever it is, no holds barred, whatever. Like everything has a stipulation in a sense like that. Like old wrestling had rules. It wasn't just called old wrestling. Like they just had two dudes out there doing whatever they want. So this is again just comes down to the Josh. I just have a weird thing with. I don't think you do too.
Josh Matthews
is not a great commentator. Yeah.
Josh Matthews was absolutely awful on commentary. But right now, like already through the first match, his most passionate selling, his most passionate point to talk about was that they were trending number 2 worldwide on Twitter. That was when he got most excited. It wasn't for the return of the Motor City Machine Guns. It wasn't for the match itself.
Yeah, he barely remembered their finisher, like the death bombs. He squeezed it out. He's like, oh, right. Yeah, that's what this is called. He did not know moves and big things to call and that kind of stuff. And we'll get to that later on. It just kept coming up. But
it was a constant theme through the night of Josh Matthews just not mentioning things that you would need the commentator to fill you in on storyline-wise, moves that were happening. Callis said to him early on as well, you call the moves and I tell the jokes.
Yeah.
And Josh just, ignored that advice and went about doing this half-assed job for the rest of the night of mostly, oh, look at that. Oh, look what he did. Well, thanks, Josh. I'm watching. I got the same eyes. Tell me what the move's called. I don't know that. It's brutal. I like this match. I think you were looking forward to this matchup as well. I got into it more through the video package right before it. Dreamer's promo was excellent.
Yeah. It sold this match for sure, like going into it.
Yeah. And then it was fairly standard. Fair match, though, once it started. I had kind of hoped for more out of Dreamer, I guess, and them to do more with it, but...
I think this falls in that fact that, if you're going to do an old school match, like an old school hardcore match, especially with someone with such a history like Dreamer from ECW and that kind of stuff, it's so hard to live up to what's like the progression of hardcore wrestling as it's gone. This was very like early 2000s, end of the 90s era sort of hardcore match. Like you had your chairs, your garbage cans, a small little thumbtack spot, and that was it. But I mean, think back to like the John Moxley Kenny Omega match that we had. Like they're going through barbed wire beds. They're
this was a WWF hardcore match, not even a W hardcore match.
So I think it just sort of suffered in that sense that a lot of the stuff just seemed very like sort of stereotypical, and we're probably going to get a bit of that at Extreme Rules too. There's a different sort of cadence in both properties there, but
and again, it's Moose and Tommy Dreamer. I mean, it isn't Moxley and Kenny Omega.
No, very true. They're not going to be putting on a big high spot match kind of thing. It's going to be a lot of old school sort of just grinding out, and you can get away with stretching a match out by having the trash spots kind of thing, getting to the outside, using the garbage and the garbage cans and that kind of stuff. But no, I think they did what they could to get Moose over with his big moves, and then like kind of working Dreamer, and then Dreamer getting a few sort of hope spots in there to sort of, think that he sort of had a chance, but certainly didn't do any sort of damage to Moose at all.
No, there were a few bits where Dreamer got some offense in. I never felt they made it look or feel like he had a chance of toppling.
Yeah, that reverse cutter with the moonsault was his biggest moment, and he got like the 2 count off it, and I think that was his biggest sort of like piece of offense. I mean, he had the reverse rake with the kendo stick, and
Moose's standing moonsault the onto the Dreamer when he was lying on the chair stack. That was great for the 2 count. I really like that. But I wasn't sure if the lights out spear kind of missed its mark because Dreamer didn't quite hit the thumbtacks. He didn't quite land on the chairs. So, which also might have been by design that it ended without the use really of the weapons at the end of the day. After all, I don't know. Again, my commentator didn't fill me in on story of it at all. He just kind of oohed and awed that Dreamer spilt the thumbtacks.
Yeah. And then they were just sort of screaming about it, and he sold it pretty hard to not really even take the bump to have, like when you do a thumbtack spot, the result is usually to have the the thumbtacks on the person to see it afterwards, right? And there was no sort of aftermath with the tacks, so it seemed a little didn't quite live up to what it could have been there. So
doing the front face, the face first bump onto it, he stopped himself from getting fully tacked. And as he stood up, he didn't have any of the great visuals of the times that Foley did it in WWE, where he would stand up with a back just loaded with metal.
Yeah.
I don't really get why Dreamer wouldn't have dropped onto it back first. He knew what he was. He knows what the tax spot is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would have been much more visually impressive and everything else if he had done it right. But
yeah, they're screaming about his eyes and they're like trying to up the ante by doing it like with a face spot. It's like, okay, well then I need a payoff here. And if it was him just sort of just missing it and not even getting it with his hands, it was just sort of like, okay. That it maybe shouldn't have been on camera. I don't know, maybe it was just camera angles. But because they don't want to be too hard on this, it was a sort of fun old school wrestling match or like old school hardcore style match.
Sure.
And that was sort of different to see from Moose, where he's sort of been working his way through these sort of old school guys, and this kind of shows that he can do a different kind of match as well with doing the hardcore stuff. And yeah, interested to see what happens next with this character for Moose, if they're just sort of building it, I guess, for an inevitable actual championship run. We'll wait and see. But yeah, this didn't hurt Moose at all. It was just sort of a nice sort of place on the card early on, and he seemed to be heading home right afterwards.
I got the feeling that he's just going to go legend versus legend versus legend, or like old, and just keep beating up these.
Well, if they're going to keep bringing people back,
have him go up against the actual Impact champion.
Yeah, if they're going to keep bringing older guys back, like we'll get to Eric Young later on, if they want to pull the trigger on some more guys, even if it is on like short-term basis, then this is the perfect person to feed them to, right? Like just help boost this Moose character and this, legend killer thing that they're doing. Yeah, by just being able to showcase some of your older talent. So
next we saw Johnny Swinger arriving in Carl Anderson's limo because he didn't see Ole around. And it was an Anderson booked limo. I thought that was pretty funny.
Ba-doom, boop. Yeah, Swinger's pretty an interesting cat. So yeah, we'll see what happens with this character.
They followed that with the women's gauntlet match for the winner becoming the number one contender to the Knockouts Championship, which would be on the line later this evening. And I had to miss the match because I had to go and walk a puppy. So
fair enough. Well, I will do my best to fill you in. This was a great showcase like of their knockouts. So obviously getting like 13 of them in there and some sort of veteran knockouts, as well as a lot of their new talent bringing them up kind of deal. So yeah, they did what they could with the sort of time allotted as well, and to get over the kind of newer up and coming stuff. So I apologize for being fairly unfamiliar with some of these women. So I will do my best to remember who everybody was and all that kind of stuff. I did my best to write the spot sort of order down and everything else. So we did kick off with Tasha Steele and Kylie Ray coming out as 1 and 2. So the gimmick of this was sort of Royal Rumble style, where you start with 2 and then another girl will come out each time, and then you can be eliminated over the top rope till you get down to just 2, and then it was a straight up wrestling match at the very end. So similar to the whatever they were calling it, the Battle Royal in AEW that they did on the first Double or Nothing, I believe.
Okay.
When Hangman, I think, won the title or whatever that was, or maybe that was at All In, whatever that was, but had similar vibes to that. So yeah, he kicked off with Tasha Steele and Kylie Ray. Kylie definitely getting, as this match shows, the biggest sort of like push here in this, and she, from what I've seen in like the little bits of Impact that I've checked out, she's definitely getting a lot of showcase in the Knockouts division as an up-and-comer now that they've signed her to Impact. So great to see her here. I remember her from the early AEW days, so cool to see her getting a bigger push here. And then they had, I'm unfamiliar with this Johnny Bravo guy that is working with Taya Valkyrie. I'm not sure what the story is or whatever, but he came out as a sort of fake Taya to then get thrown out by the girls. So I guess he was technically the first elimination. So quickly after that, we had Kimberly coming out. I'm not terribly familiar with her. Kind of a newer, interesting kind of character though. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything interesting that I can remember off of her specifically. She did quite a bit of damage to Kylie Ray and Tasha early on. Next coming in was Kiera Hogan, which, I mean, why do you ever choose the last name Hogan if you're not actually Hogan is mind-boggling to me. But I think her and Tasha Steele have they either were tag partners at one time or are tag partners, so there was some sort of beef between the two of them there. So that sort of was was bouncing off of each other. We still weren't getting a lot of eliminations either. The ring was sort of filling up at this point. They had Susie come out, who I've seen a little bit in Impact. She's kind of the anime type character. I apologize for not being totally familiar with these women, but they did a good job of getting her moves over the women sold for her fantastically, like her big hi-ya punch thing that she does, and I think she's got the kind of look down and stuff like that. And then number 7 coming out from, I think they said Twerktown, Katie Forbes, who I didn't think could actually wrestle. And no, she cannot fucking wrestle. Jesus Christ. I thought she was going to hurt one of these women, and I'm glad she didn't. She tried to do a few spots. They were all super slow and fucking just, Jesus Christ. I don't know why. She was in for way too long, too. It should have just been one twerk spot, fucking dump her out of there. But they kept Katie in as long as they could. Then finally some real talent came out. You had Madison Ray, sorry. And she was sort of playing the smart sort of vet in there, sort of not wanting to do the spots with the some of the bigger girls, especially when the next coming out was Havoc. She sort of did Roughhouse as sort of that big person spot, not necessarily throwing people out, but sort of in between the ropes, and a couple of big spots in that sense. And then we finally had Taya Valkyrie coming out. I don't think we had any eliminations by this point. I feel like the ring just kept kind of filling up before people started getting dumped out. Tasha still did get dumped out fairly early. I think more to sort of tell the story that it was her and Kylie Ray at first, and then now that she was gone, Kylie Ray was the one that had been in from the start, and it was that sort of Battle Royal story or Royal Rumble story that they were going to tell with Kylie Ray. You had Taya Valkyrie come out, and then not long after it was Alicia, and then Nakara, who I'm not familiar with them, unfortunately, but they it was the typical Rumble thing where each woman gets in, does a spot, building in that sense, and then it sort of climatically built with Rosemary coming out last. So some familiar faces, maybe some less familiar ones, especially to me, but interesting to see all these girls coming out there. And then you started getting, once everyone was there, now we get to eliminations. So they had a few different kind of fun spots, getting up over the ropes and eliminating each other. Nothing stands out specifically. They just started racking off the numbers though pretty quick at that point, trying to get it down to a final 4, which I believe was then Kylie Ray, Taya Valkyrie, Rosemary, and who was the last other girl? Don't remember, so I apologize.
One of the girls.
Yeah, I even have the numbers written down, but it was the final 4, but then quickly became just the final 3 as Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie sort of teamed up on Kylie Ray. And then it was sort of the thing of her just like getting big surprise eliminations. I think she ended up taking Havoc out and then taking Valkyrie out, and then, it was her and Valkyrie at the very end. So she must have taken Rosemary out after that. And then her and Tessa went at it. She ended up getting the big surprise win over her, and then now being the number 1 contender. So great push for Kylie Ray coming out of this, getting especially a victory over the former champion like Taya Valkyrie. And they did a fairly good job of just trying to showcase the women from their knockouts division. That's pretty deep, like to have 13 girls to be able to do a spot like this. I'd be shocked if AEW could do that right now, but consider they can't have a bunch of their talent there. So
no, I think that's the good move by them to highlight what could be a strength that puts them on equal footing with the other 2 big boys.
Yeah, for sure.
Arguably bigger than Impact, right? I mean,
you easily could have just done a Kylie Ray Taya Valkyrie match and got Kylie Ray over, but why not also use this to then showcase all these other women too? So not a bad move on Impact's part. They did what they could. I say my only probably biggest criticism is don't have Katie Forbes fight people, please. She just I don't want to see anybody get hurt.
So following this, was this the first of the next big reveal?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay, so then it was free agent Heath Slater, recently on Raw, now on Impact Wrestling.
Still wearing the same clothes and outfit, I guess, that he got the crap kicked out of him by Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, same shirt. It was the same free agent T-shirt. My
same
biggest
gray
question
pants, yeah.
was this going to be? Would this stop WWE or prevent them from doing something similar in the future, where they bring someone back on that one night basis to see a week later, 2 weeks later, they pop up on one of their competition shows? I mean, I was surprised to see him because I didn't think he'd been rehired with WWE, but I assumed that they would slap some kind of proviso in there that said, well, we'll bring you back for a night. Here's a bunch of money.
Right.
And yeah, you can't show up anywhere for another 90 days now.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty, unless you're paying them to stay home for another 90 days. I highly doubt they want to do that, but
I guess that's what I wondered is if
I think it depends on what it's worth to them. I think for them, it was just the spot. And maybe if that's the rub they can give to Heath leaving, then nothing, then it was better than nothing. Yep. Because he was always a good company guy and maybe willing to come back and do something like that. Maybe he said, well, look, I'll be straight up with you. I have all intentions of going to Impact. So if I'll come do this spot, but know that that's my intentions. And they'll be like, well, okay, well then maybe, you put our guy over and we'll give you some TV time and let you, wear your own t-shirt. You don't have to wear, a blank thing or whatever. So you'd hope maybe there was something. I always want to find some positives in wrestling. Not everything has to be terribly controlling and negative. There's got to be some nice people at WWE, you'd hope, right?
I would wondering as well, like, is this actually indicative that Heath is a member of Impact now? Or is this a free agent gimmick that he's playing?
Well, that was that's the story they were playing, and he could certainly keep doing that, right? Yeah,
he was kicked out later in the show for not being on the roster yet. So I'm assuming that's a work, but we'll see, I suppose. Time will tell. He came out and interrupted Slater as a spot stealer and coming in and trying to take my spot in that title match, and I've been here a lot longer than you. And Slater kicked the crap out of him.
Yeah, nice.
And that was the end of the spot.
Quick, and he was on his way, and it was a neat sort of surprise to see Heath Slater there. But like I say, all this aside, this was pre-taped, and this was all set up before, and this was not live. His microphone did not work for his entire promo, so it sounded like trash. So it was so hard to pay attention and figure out what the hell he's trying to say and get over because you can't hear him. It was driving me nuts.
Which is a real shame after the promo work that he just cut on Raw. I'm sure it was like hot fire again, and you're right. So it felt like the company was hurting him more so at that point. It's like, oh geez, so what could have been a lot hotter was hurt by technical difficulties, but I guess what can you do with a pre-taped wrestling show? I don't know. We got our X Division title match up next. Chris Bay taking on Willie Mack, the current champion. Willie Mack reminds me, he's a cross between a luchador, not a cross between. He's a luchador stuck in Dusty Rhodes' body.
Yep.
Like, it was so unique to see someone, as Keith Lee's probably a similar form of like size that can move. But
Brian Cage, other than the being ripped, but
this guy's a different size shape, or different shape to go with the size, and still a different style again.
Yeah,
I don't like the contact lenses. I thought they were really distracting. But
I think it was.
I thought Willie was good. I like Willie Mack.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a new character thing or if that was just a Slammiversary special gear dress up kind of gimmick. I'm hoping it was more that sense because it was distracting. Willie gets over on his own. I mean, he is such a charismatic, great character. He was so great in Lucha Underground for those exact reasons. The fact that he could compete with the luchadors as well as having big guy matches with guys like Cage and Mil Mascaras and Marty Lamoth and stuff like that, but then being able to get in there with like Phoenix and Ricochet and stuff like that. So this is really cool to see Willie Mack doing this kind of thing. I believe he won the title last Slammiversary, did he not? Or like somewhere around there? So he's been champ for a fair bit. No, I don't think he did actually. It was a little after, but he's been champ for a fair amount of time, and Chris Bay has been getting the big sort of push. He was a hot agent when they signed him, and they're doing a pretty good job of boosting him here. The whole sort of night we're sort of seeing, other than when we get to the main event, it seemed like we were getting what is like the new sort of like setup for Impact, where
Yeah.
They have their X Division guys for a little bit, and then you sort of evolve past that into the main event scene and that kind of thing. And or early on to the X Division to, who sort of is the standout to then move on to the main event kind of thing. And this is sort of, that stepping stone for Chris Bray becoming champion, sort of showcasing that he's sort of the elite of their mid-level, getting up to that next level. So Willie could easily move on or keep competing here in the X Division because he's really fun to see with the smaller guys. So yeah, it was a quick kind of match, not a ton to actually say. Some great innovative offense though from Chris Bray.
For both, because I thought
Well,
Bray
yeah.
got very little in the beginning. Early on in the match, he was getting little in the way of offensive spots, and it was all just this devastating Mac. Here's a cannonball doing lucha moves. I thought it was awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And it was going from stop speed to 180 miles an hour from whenever Mac would or Bay would get some offense in. He really slowed things down for a while, and then Mac would just pick up the pace to this explosive speed again.
Yeah,
that was really good.
Quick little 10-minute match with real hot bunch of spots that really got both guys over.
A standing moonsault at that size, like on the mat. That's incredible. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, after just seeing Moose do it too, right? So
yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, it's apples and oranges. The X Division title line from Josh Matthews, though, where he said, "Proving that you are the best athlete in the world today. If you're unfamiliar with what the X Division stands for," and I guess he's trying to pull away from the days of the X Divisions hanging from wires, and it is just like an always ladder match, or it's always a cruiserweight match, basically.
Yeah,
trying to maybe position the championship in a different light, but. You just made it. That's the world title. Is you prove you're the best athlete in the world today. That's your world championship. This is a stepping stone title, Josh.
Yeah.
You idiot. You're selling it wrong. So yeah, I thought that too. But
yeah, that just came down to just Matthews not really knowing what is going on, and he's there every week. So
that nasty looking exploder into the corner was.
Yeah.
I thought that was ugly. Jesus, a great spot. Obviously he wasn't hurt, so that must be as planned, but it looks like that's a devastating move. That looks good. The Canadian Destroyer I liked that Bay did as well, despite I guess we are seeing it a lot these days, but still I thought that was he pulled it off well.
Yeah, for sure. If it can be done in an innovative way, I'm not going to complain too much. But yeah, sometimes it can get a little overdone, especially when we see two big ones in a week. So.
And then the finish spot as well. I wasn't sure quite what happened there. The first stunner that Willie Mack pulled off followed up into a move by Bay where it looked like he tried to do that cutter finisher bounce off the ropes, but they fucked it right up. So he did it a second time. And they landed the second time, and Mack made it look bad. Like he landed on his fucking head vertically.
Yeah. He did like a Sammy Guevara spike,
yeah. It looked great for the finish, but yeah, I was a little bit like, wait, did you just completely fucking botch it and then just redo it? Okay, think so.
And this is another one that comes down to the whole match. Chris Matthews is like, Bray has told me that he has a new move that he's gonna premiere here tonight. He can't wait to premiere this new move. He's told me it's called like whatever. He had a name for it and everything. It was all this stuff. And then it gets to the end of the match. He doesn't say the move. He doesn't say, oh, here's this new finisher. Here's this, that, and the other thing. So it's like, dude, what were you selling me this whole match? Like,
yeah.
It was, parts of that just seemed so ass backwards, but it came down more so to Josh Matthews hurting the matches that were just really good. I'd like to almost at one point have turned it off and just listen to or watch the matches without his commentary.
Josh Matthews tonight made Michael Cole look good.
Yes, which is
that's how bad Josh Matthews is on commentary.
That's a hard thing to do. So,
we got Heath Slater in a nice reunion spot with Rhino in the back.
Yeah,
and Danny Davis shows up, and he's a backstage producer, I guess, with Impact.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's got to be the same Danny Davis as the former WWF referee from years ago, right? Who became the wrestler with the Hearts as he turned bad. One of the first referees into wrestler storylines from got to be the same guy. So that was a neat spot, and Danny told Heath that he had to leave the building because he's not contracted, and there's a pandemic and stuff, so get out of here. So he left. Rhino was sad.
He invited him to come back on Tuesday. He said he'd get things straightened out. So again, if they're going to use Heath with Rhino to try and help their tag division, not a bad use for a familiar tag team that people were used to in WWE. So
for sure.
Not a bad move for old Heath, who they're just calling Heath, which is very strange.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
No last name, so maybe that's easier than trying to get a new last name over. So
at least he's not going to be Seth Hader. What's Seth Hader doing in the Impact Zone? Right?
fair enough.
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
The North taking on Shamrock. Ken Shamrock and Sami Callihan for the World Tag Team titles was next. What did you think?
Oh, I love this match.
Yeah, I thought it was really good too, actually.
This was like, yeah.
It's a shame to admit that I thought Ken Shamrock was fucking good. Like,
if he's in there with this was a great way to utilize him. I felt like one of the last matches I saw, he certainly showed his age a little bit getting to the later parts of the match. I would have rather seen it been a bit shorter. But if you're utilizing him in this sense where he just had to come in and do the Ken Shamrock spots, it seemed to work perfect in that sense. Sami was the muscle for the group, which was like not what you would expect with Ken Shamrock, that he would be more of the muscle, but he was getting a lot of the strong spots in over the North. But they just kind of worked a pretty good tandem to not have Ken get too blown out. Well, by the end, it was a little rough, but there was early on, Ken was looking great, and Sami certainly looking tough. But man, the North are on a whole nother fucking level. These guys are so goddamn good.
Yeah, they looked really strong.
Yeah.
Same kind of their tag team work together and some of the fluent stuff. Like, yeah, they're obvious why they're the champions.
Yeah. No, there's shades of the Steiners in them. There's shades of just like, oh man, all kinds of different stuff. I just love the one dude that could just like, it's no talk, all fucking work and great stuff out there. And then the other guy that's just all bullshit. It's just all Ethan Page yelling crazy shit at you. And they're just a great mesh because everything that he says, Alexander will back up. And they work so great together. Their tandem moves are just fantastic. I just love stuff like Ego getting in there, just being like, "You like what you see, Ken? You like it even more now."
The double crucifix bomb, I thought that was good.
That was awesome. Into then leading into the double ankle lock spot, which was great. Them staring each other down while the other two guys are in ankle locks, slapping each other.
And he starts slapping.
Yeah, very physical match between these four. Really got them over as like super duper strong tag team. Reason that they're so dominant in the tag division and why they've been champs for so long. But it also showed that like with the friction between Sami and Ken Shamrock, that maybe that was the sort of things that were more their comeuppance than the North themselves. Yeah,
we got that feeling sold constantly through the match that they're tentative team. And then there was a couple of those spots. It was almost too soon or too early in the match. There was no tease of it in the match. Yeah. Aside from commentary talking about friction. And then
it's the Joker and Batman teaming up.
Yeah. Not quite. But and then it was the miscommunication. Josh ducked. Kenny Shamrock was going for a kick. And Josh ducks it. And he hits Sami. You just saw what happened. Why would you get angry and think it was a double cross or the guy trying to screw you? That didn't make. And then worse when the pinfall happened, and Shamrock had the cover and Sami fell on him.
Yeah.
Well, he landed on you back to back. You felt that, right? Like, so obviously he was pushed onto you. He didn't. Why would your partner break it up? That was inane. But again, I guess that's playing into the idea that they're both supposed to be crazy as well.
Yeah.
Which with Ken Shamrock is actually not an act. He is fucking insane, full blown.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're like, the story going in and out of this was just going to be like trying to put the North over, get them in there against a different kind of tag team that you haven't seen before that might like cause them some different troubles, but inevitably you just want to lead to Sami versus Ken Shamrock. Then, they did everything they could to do those specific story points. So, I think, one of the weird things was I don't know why Ken Shamrock did that huge crash and burn spot at the very end that then led to him eating the finish. Like he saw everybody had moved and he still decided to take this huge dive to the outside and just eat it off the ramp and then the floor. And he just, that one was just, the timing was just a little off, but he just was so committed to the jump that it had to happen. And it happened, but
I was going to say that was Josh explained it because come on, man.
Well, my bad. Shit.
Weren't you paying attention at all? No, you're exactly right. I wrote that down.
Yeah, and I wish I knew. I'm
bit.
gonna say I like the North, and I feel like I remember the name of their finisher. Josh obviously wasn't telling us, but it's that sort of what's Cesaro's finisher? The neutralizer. It's kind of a double neutralizer. It just looks amazing. Their tandem moves are so great. So
Yeah.
really kind of put Ken away, and then they just cut a real solid, sick promo at the end, really getting themselves over as the top of the elite and the elite here in Impact Wrestling.
You're skipping over the last fuck up that he made in this match was where he spoiled the result. Matthews called the North the winners and had retained their title successfully after the 2 count. As the referee's arm went up for 3, he was already, and they're retaining the championships, the North.
Yeah. He did that.
While Sammy is on the outside, like, desperately trying to jump back in the ring to break it up. So and that's on camera.
Yeah.
This is the point you're selling is Sammy's nearly there. He's going to, oh, no, there's the 3. The North retain. Instead, no, fuck that. I'll tell you who won before it happens. Because I know. Because I wrote it. I'm Josh. Like, it's stunk of that. And I really could not understand why. Like, nobody does that. Nobody does that. No wrestling commentator ever says, there's the 3 in the finish before the fucking rest hand down. It was brutal. It was really bad. Then they did their promo and made it. I really thought this was going to be the Good Brothers coming out here.
Right.
But they threw a little bit of a swerve.
Yes, and they brought it was the guys that had their big win earlier on. The Motor City Machine Guns came out, interrupted, cut a little promo against the North here, and challenged them to a tag team title match this Tuesday on Impact. So, yeah, like I was saying earlier, and what it kind of alluded to this, if the reason they were bringing Machine Gun Kelly or Motor City Machine Guns in was to reinvigorate their tag division, give the North a new kind of something to challenge again, not just be focused on the Good Brothers kind of thing, then this is, again, a good way to sort of let that sort of thing be rolling. And then by the time I guess we got to the Good Brothers thing, I guess they have other intentions for them right now, not in the tag division. So to keep them separate, again, they can clearly be ready for the tag titles whenever the time comes. So if your first step is the Motor City Machine Guns, I'm fine with that. But maybe in hindsight, yeah, they did kind of blow a big spot that could have been the Good Brothers here.
Yeah, I would think, in my opinion, by the end of the night, I don't see why you wouldn't have maybe had Anderson and Gallows come out as well at this point. Because I think you're right. Great way to extend the division. If they weren't going to do this at all with Motor City Machine Guns, why even have them come out to take on the Rascals? So I agree with all your analysis on that. But yeah, I would have maybe had them as well. You don't then take
Fair
away
enough.
from it. You have all 3 teams, and now they're introduced into the fray, but not necessarily right for the titles right away either. So, yeah, because where we are right now almost looks like they're going to be pulling like sidekick jobs for a new AJ.
Yeah. So it all depends on where they were going to be seated and what the story. But, yeah, that isn't necessarily where I'd much rather a very specific, we're here for those titles. We're here for a specific reason, and we didn't really get that. Again, we're sort of jumping the gun and the horse here a little bit, getting to them. But, this was, tag spot related. And, I guess we'll see what happens between the North and Motor City Machine Guns. I'm kind of curious to see that match, so I may try and watch Impact on Tuesday. I'm not making any promises, but
no, but I wouldn't mind seeing that either. I think that'll be a really good tag team match.
Yeah,
like these are 2 teams that wouldn't look out of place in AEW.
No, that was the biggest thing I thought out of it. Like I would, all the rumors about the Motor City Machine Guns coming back together, I wanted them to come to AEW. They've had amazing matches with the Young Bucks, and if this just means that it could happen inevitably, then that's fine. The tag division is so hot, and I don't think it's cooling off anytime soon. So if they, have feuds changing in AEW and they're ready to bring other people in, there's a time and place for it. I think the North seem like they're just going to run through Impact until their contracts are done and then be as hot as they can to be going wherever they're going next. And, would love to see them in AEW. Hope they don't go get buried in WWE.
Yeah, well, if you're a tag team and that's what you've done, your thing, unless you just want to make some money and be done with wrestling, why would you want to go to WWE?
Vince will instantly see Ethan and just snatch him up, and Josh will be done, which I feel bad about because Josh is great. So, getting on the next match, we had Deonna Purrazzo taking on Jordynne Grace for the Knockouts Championship. What did you make of this?
I thought it was pretty good. We had the story of Donna working the arm. She's the technical wizard. the virtuoso, and she's going to put her a master class on. Josh Matthews asking Don Callis in the middle of the match, is she the best technical wrestler in the world?
And then Don Callis being like, well, I don't go that far.
Yeah, exactly. It was priceless. But yeah, and then Jordan is the strong, like, strength dominant champion, right? So
yeah,
I like the story of the match. I thought when Grace started working over Donna's back, almost in retaliation of the work that had been done on her arm, she got her the bow and arrow in the corner.
Yeah,
working that out. I thought that it was a good story. I thought it was a well done match.
Yeah. I mean, if your intention was, again, I always try to think of you're trying to tell a story here in the end. And if the story again was bringing Deonna in and then her showing her technique here to overcome a powerful champion like Grace, they did a really good job of that. And if they're going to, fully extend their way with Peraza, I can get behind that. I hope this leads to a trilogy or something between them, because I felt like Jordan got a little buried in a sense, because she's fucking really tough and did a great job getting over Taya, who was the best knockouts champion of the more modern Impact days, not like the originals or anything like that, but of the more modern knockouts that weren't like in the Tessa Blanchard sort of deal later on. So I felt that, I mean, she got over as a big, strong character here, but maybe it was just the fact that, like, I get that Deonna was working the arm, but it was just like the same fucking move on the arm over and over again. And I'm like, what technique is that? Like, to just hit her with the same shit? I don't get that. To me, that's not technique. To me, technique is like Roderick Strong is the king of backbreakers because he can hit you with 50 different fucking backbreakers. He knows how to hit it from every different spot. To me, that's technique, not just hitting you with the same kick in the same arm, kicking your arm all the time. To me, that's not technique. Yes, you're working a match. You're working to what is best beneficial to you and to winning, and that's what told the story here. But to me, that's what the story was. The story was her, I have one move, I have the cross arm breaker, I'm going to work your arm till I break your fucking arm. The same way Ronda would wrestle, the same way other people who have been booked like that before. And then for them to push her as this technical wrestler, to me, it just didn't. I want to see more like, a technical wrestler's Dean Malenko, right? Like,
yeah, more chain wrestling.
For sure. What happened to your mic, bud?
I don't know why. What's it doing now?
Oh, you're back now. I lost you for a little there.
Oh, my God. It's equipment on this end. Nothing happens. Nothing changes. The light dies or the mic dies. Or the backdrop drops. How Donna didn't break her fucking neck on that pile driver Falcon Arrow spot, I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was career ending. But Donna won. She's the new Impact Knockouts champion.
Yeah, the Rings of Saturn looked really, really big, too. I like that finisher. Yeah. I'm glad it's making a comeback. I think Pac does it the best since Perry Saturn. And if this is something Deonna's going to start equipping, too, it worked. Like, I don't want to put her down at all. Again, I think it just comes down to fucking Josh Matthews just ruining what I could have just seen from her in this match. If I was just watching the match, it would have been a little different than him being like, she's the best technical wizard I've ever seen.
Yeah. No, agreed. Yeah.
So again, it just came
overselling on something that wasn't happening again.
Yes. But no, back and forth. Really good to get Deonna over, and if that's going to be the way they wanted to continue with that character, and if it either leads to Jordan trying to come up with a way to get some comeuppance on that to get her belt back, or if they're just going to do this new tear with Deonna, there's all kinds of interesting places they can go from here. So.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of storyline possibility.
Yeah, a heel champ is always great too. It's better to have people chasing and that kind of deal.
Agree.
So, Big Mama Pump will get her chance another day.
We got a main event video package then leading into the 7th and final match of the night as Ace Austin took on Eddie Edwards and Trey and a mystery opponent, which turned out to be 2 mystery opponents.
Dun, 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 dun.
First, big surprise was
Rich Swann.
Big pop went nobody, right? So, fortunately, that was somewhat of a ruse, because then they also brought out Eric Young, who, again, was somewhat of I was then waiting for okay. Who's the next mystery guy? Make it even more. But
and Sting. Like,
of course, they dropped Angle's name 3 or 4 times through the night, which I thought was interesting, only to then not bring him out.
This came down to just the fact that they could, rather than they.
Yeah.
I mean, they said AJ's name a billion times too. There's no fucking way he was showing
Well,
up.
you knew
so.
AJ wasn't coming. But there was a real, and more than likely Sting ain't getting in the ring again. We all know that. But
No, for sure. But yeah,
Angle's name a couple times. You're like, well, shit, that could happen. I could see Angle. Yeah, I got one more match in me, and I'll make it a special occasion, and I'll job out to the winner of this, and make it up into the final twosome.
Yeah,
So
I feel like that's a better. If they were gonna, if in the long run, I feel like if they're gonna do that, he's like the perfect last person for Moose. Then, right?
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I would more save him for that, considering the way this match ended up being, where it was more focused on some of the newer talent that have stayed in Impact and that are trying to get the push. The two of the names that I'd recognize, especially like Trey and Ace Austin, they were fighting for the X Division title that last year's Slammiversary to now be in the main event. You sort of see what the progression for someone can be here. Yeah, I think the Eric Young surprise was, again, a sort of maybe the last sort of one people were sort of wanting to see, like not necessarily that in a bad thing. Eric Young is fantastic, but when they were sort of teasing all these other potential ones, it sort of has you a little more clamoring to see something bigger and exciting like that. But it certainly, once you got something like that, you knew a little bit more that, okay, well, they're probably not going with a big surprise win either. We're going to go with what the story seems to have been driving towards. But then even that, the ending seemed kind of strange. So we'll get to it while we get to it.
They pushed so hard and heavy that Ace Austin would be your youngest world heavyweight champion of all time, were he to win tonight at 21 years old.
Yeah.
4 years into his pro career when he was signed by Impact, and really lent on that I was really feeling like, yeah, he was the guy that was going to be walking away with the belt. So the pile driver, Eric Young, the first elimination was Trey. Eric Young, the pile driver to take him out, was beautiful.
Yes, absolutely quick. And then just destroyed by Matthews again, where he told you that Trey was out before he was even pinned.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, my God, give us a minute, please. The guy could have a hot kick out. Like,
yeah, literally, while refs saying, and he's the first man out.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I guess he is.
It was terrible. It was really, because you don't do that. There's no call for that.
Yeah.
You may know Josh. Like, so anyway.
And I'm gonna say, I don't want to get too much off Trey before he is out of the match here. He did have some real high spots with Austin Aries early on. You could tell, or Ace Austin, sorry, and you can tell they have a
careful.
you can tell they have a sort of a history with each other, which they did try to talk about a little bit on the commentary. I really liked the spot where he kind of misdirected Austin or Eddie Edwards, so Eddie ran into the middle rope and then he dived through and hit another destroyer, but it was a really nice one on Rick Swann on the outside, and he sold it like $1 million. So Rick Swann, I love those sort of up and dazed and slowly fall back down. That was really sort of fun, big spots from him early on. But yeah, then he got kind of caught with the big pile driver from Eric Young, put out, and then we had back down to a fatal 4-way where things kind of slowed down a little bit more.
Yeah. I like the table spot in the corner off of the top rope. But it was just so fucking dark over there. Because I should say that, I think we talked about just before we started recording. I love the lighting, the way they had the light beams coming up out from the around the edge of the ring. Yeah. Really took away, stopped me from getting distracted by the fact there wasn't a crowd there. I thought that was great cover. Yeah. Then you had mentioned how the sound though was a bit distracting. That they're still going the absolutely no fans in the seats routes. And not even having filler fans. Yeah. And they could get away with doing piped in noise when they're doing the lighting like that, because it
could have had something that, yeah. We all know we're in the hard times and that kind of thing with wrestling right now, but obviously they are watching the other products. They know what's going on. Everyone switched cameras, to have your stage backdrop to the ring. That was never a thing before the no crowds. So they obviously adapted that. Why they haven't chose to adapt some of the other stuff just seems a little weird, but it could be circumstantial. I don't know what the limitations are in Nashville too. They might not be allowed to have that many people in the ring to actually film the shows too. So I don't know if that is what the limitation is there, but it was noticeable from what we're seeing in other wrestling. So it was hard not to have it be a factor because it was nice in some matches. You got to hear more of something like from Ethan Page, but in
Yeah.
this, you heard too much of the guys, not doing anything. And
the way again, I love the way the lighting was set up in this match specifically. That corner was totally in the dark, so when they believe in on the replay, you could barely see the cameraman or the timekeeper jumping out of the way before they hit the table, which was supposed to add to the drama of it. But
for sure,
it was so dark it was lost a bit. So that spoiled and took away from it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But the big table spot led to Rick Swann getting the surprise upset pin on Eric Young, and then him going full on heel here and just destroying the recently repaired knee of Rich Swann. Sorry.
Poor guy. Smashed his leg up.
And then you kind of knew what was going to be happening there. It was going to be a pretty quick finish for the next person to get a hold of him, and that was Ace Austin.
Yep. So we had Rich was out, brought us down to Austin versus Edwards for the final two. Starts off with a big slugfest. Ace in control. Eddie comes back with some chops. Actually, some nice chops. I like that little spot. Was good.
Yeah.
Great belly to belly on Ace. Landed on his neck in the corner.
Yeah. Oh, this guy. Yeah, this young kid sells like a lot. He's learned quite a bit in his young time here in the ring, and showed that he's really getting over, and they were pushing him over. They mentioned maybe a little too much about the feud already between Eddie and Austin. I mean, I guess you want to get it over, but the fact that mentioning very specifically that Austin had already beat Eddie twice, then I was like, well, unless you're completely done with Eddie Edwards in this situation, he's going to be winning this match. And I was like, well, why is he winning this match? He should have went out earlier. This should have been Rick Swann here in this last spot. It should have been Trey or anybody else. Like, there was just no reason to because then they were just like in a rock and a hard place. Like,
I think when you have a surprise entrant in a multi-man match, if you don't intend to have them be the winner, they at least have to be the finalist.
Yeah.
So the fact that they had two of them to choose from, or you could have had Rich or Eric. And I like the way that they Eric takeouts it, but that could have happened. That same whole thing of the way that went down between those two could have happened with Eddie already been eliminated and have that be the finish of the match.
Yeah, for sure.
The finish was, we're going to have, just before you have the big climactic face-off between Ace and Rich Swann, Eric fucks up his leg and Ace gets an easy win. So he didn't quite win the title, but he's the champ now anyway. There's ways to go from that. Anyway, takes a Boston knee party and kicks out at 2. Delivers his finisher, which was nice. But
the fold. It's a really nice
Josh
move.
didn't tell me, so
it's called the fold.
All right, thank you. He kicks out at 2 as well. He hits him with another Boston knee party and a die hard, and that was a 3 count. Eddie Edwards is a 2-time now Impact World Heavyweight Champion.
Seems a little lackluster. Because I mean, my question for you was, initially going back to the original 5 match that was booked 3 or 4 weeks ago with Tessa, who did you see winning?
Who was the 5th man? Always a mystery?
No. It was Tessa, Trey.
Oh, Tessa. Well.
Oh, no, it was Michael Elgin.
Michael
Tessa,
Elgin, that's right. Elgin. I couldn't remember.
Eddie Edwards, Ace Austin, and Trey.
And I suppose that the plan was always to take the title off of Tessa, so they must have always been planning on going with Eddie, right?
I felt like they were going with Ace. The whole time was building that Ace was taking that belt from Tessa. They had the feud between the two of them. He couldn't quite get the comeuppance there, so it seemed like, okay, well then this is how he does it. He takes it off her without having to beat her. Someone else interferes. That's why he's got the muscle and all that kind of stuff. It seemed like he was the one they've been building to. Like in I don't know. It's so hard to say. Like, maybe there is more eyes on Eddie Edwards or that kind of thing in that sense, but it seemed like this is the kid you're building, and he's your former X Division champ. Could be your new future youngest champ, the guy you really want to get behind. And then you sort of just kind of killed his momentum here by having a former champion win instead. I guess maybe you weren't quite ready to go with that. When it seemed like they were leaning towards Ace Austin winning, I was getting the impressions of like what happened in Ring of Honor 2 years ago too, when they went with Matt Taven. It was just like, okay, this is the guy you're going for. And I personally just don't consider him to be championship material as well as the other former champions that you have. So it was maybe in that sense, they didn't feel that they wanted to bring their belt down by putting it on Austin, but give him a chance maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I really felt that the amount they'd invested during the match of telling me how he's going to be the youngest, going to be so. That's you're telling me this is an ex-Rock or an ex-Randy Orton, right? There's a lot of credibility and a lot of extra character sales in there.
Yeah, why take all that away from not letting him win?
I agree. I mean, now again, right? He is so young. Obviously, he's going to have his time. It's probably going to come sooner rather than later so they can still stake the claim.
Yeah.
But this was probably a great opportunity for it. So why waste it and burn it on something else?
Absolutely. If you were going to build to Eddie getting that final comeuppance over him, do it later and have him get the belt off him, right? Why do it in this sort of situation where it doesn't do anything beneficial for Ace Austin? It just, kind of does. People just aren't even that excited to see Eddie Edwards. I think the night might have ended a little bit more exciting with a new fresh-faced champ. But
we went from there. Madman Fulton jumped in. Madman had been with Ace on the outside through the match. He came into the ring and jumps Eddie from behind while he's celebrating. And then while the beatdown's going on, then we finally get the appearance of the Good Brothers as Gallo and Anderson come in, have a little stare down with him in the ring.
Gallo's just about slipped on the ramp walking in. I'm like, what an entrance, pal.
That's awesome. And then they start fighting with Fulton and Ace Austin to back them off of and save the new champ. The beer toss part, I thought that was great as well.
Yeah.
Ed caught his beer. Carl caught his beer. Gallows, Butterfingers, drops his beer on the floor. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And then to actually close the show, right when you thought that was going to be the last shot, we actually got EC3, an image of him and his new gimmick that he's been pushing on social media, except he's still sticking with the guy that doesn't talk. I thought he hated that routine.
He's the narrative. He controls the narrative. So he chooses when to talk and not talk, not somebody else.
At least now it's up to him. So, he smashed us a glass. That was cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously we're going to move towards something with him.
Yep.
Going for
Did you see his promo video that came out earlier today too? Like a lot of the guys were releasing their finally it's July 18th I can talk about not being in WWE or whatever. Or
I didn't see his stuff. I know that
he had a real good thing of burning all his WWE stuff and forming this mafia of guys that are sort of following him and the narrative sort of storyline and that kind of stuff. And the sort of you've been warned, follow. Control the narrative sort of story and that kind of thing. I don't know if that's what's going to be leading here in Impact, but I kind of wish it was nice to sort of just have that quick little shock thing with him at the end and then kind of cut to black. But I thought it would have been even better to have that happen, cut back to the ring, and then have Gallows and Anderson turn on Eddie. Have some sort of surprise, some sort of twist from them there. It just seems so cheap to have them come out, just hit a magic killer in a couple of big spots and for all the hype, I wanted a little bit more from the Good Brothers than just beating up Fuller and Ace.
No mention of tag titles, championship gold, chasing anything. That's why I said earlier it made me feel like, is Eddie the new AJ? Is this just going to be the new leader of their club, and these are the guys that are going to help him out? I don't want to see him in that role again, and I can't imagine they've signed to be in that role again. So
I'd hope not.
I hope not. Especially when apparently they had deals with AEW on the table. They had New Japan offers on the table.
So those were before. That was before they signed the huge WWE deal.
No, but don't tell me you wanted to do this. Don't tell me that you
If they were paying you, I think they're quite happy just getting paid. If Doc Gallows is anything like he really is.
The only other thing I thought with the EC3 reveal was if you have him, you got him back, then surely he should have been in that match. And if you're not going to have him take away the belt or come away with the title, at least he didn't come away with the title. He's got there's a story then going forward for him right away to chase it. Now I'm not, if he's just coming in, as you say, if he's just coming in immediately to challenge Eddie, that's kind of left Austin out in the cold now for no reason.
Yeah.
I expect this will be Austin and Fulton taking on the Good Brothers either on Tuesday or a future Impact taping coming up. But yeah, like you say, I get it where they want to slow build them into the division maybe rather than rush them straight into a title match, similar to FTR coming into AEW. Yeah. We know everyone knows you want to see them go for the titles. Everyone knows you. We're going to have them go through a couple of hoops first.
Yeah, but that being said, then in this main event, you should have had something so big and hot that it didn't matter, that we could have waited for the Good Brothers to go for the tag belts. You can wait for some of your other stuff because all your other big surprises were so big that they can fill the time before you're ready to get to these other things. It works in other companies. You can have, Lance Archer debut the same night as Matt Hardy because they're two very different things, and two very different stories, and like the worlds are expanding, and you're not going to hurt anybody's push kind of deal here. So no, I think with so many eyes on this, right? It's their Slammiversary. It's the one big thing everyone talks about for Impact every year. They did everything they could to get everyone talking about it too, and it to seem like on their end rather than, they're trying to maybe push some of their guys, but yeah, they just seem to, for the chance to take all this momentum and keep running with it. They did in certain senses, like the Deonna Purrazzo stuff, but then this main event just really kind of falling short.
Yeah, I it's always the same thing when the main event doesn't live up to either expectations, or it's not quite what you wanted to see, or doesn't play out as, it brings down the rest of the night and the rest of the show a little bit. Because
unfortunately,
the only thing that I found distasteful or non-entertaining all night was Matthews on commentary. Yeah. So aside from that, it was perfectly entertaining show. After the main event and the reveals of the mystery, and then the second, I was left walking away from it feeling like, meh, it was all right.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right, but that's about it. So I don't know if that's.
And I think that's just on Impact too for not, they had everything going into this with the momentum and all that kind of stuff, and if they weren't willing to, pull the trigger on certain stuff, hopefully they have reasons for it, but it seemed like they were just so story heavy in every other match to not tell that in this last one seemed sort of, and I get it, you're in a rock and a hard place and not knowing what to do storyline wise with an empty title and that kind of stuff, but take advantage of that. Use that situation to then, crown someone new, that kind of thing, not just feel that you're going back a few years, right? So I don't know if that one match has me pretty excited to maybe check out on Tuesday, like the North versus Motor City Machine Guns. Should be a fantastic one, but I can probably just find it online after too. I may not be watching live on Twitch. We'll see. Did this turn you into much of an Impact fan, or where are you going from here with Impact?
Nah, I left the same as before. It's the same as this tonight. I'm interested enough when they present a card that's got names I recognize in matches that I want to see, things that interest me, and some ideas that interest. So I had gotten excited to see tonight's show. Coming away from it, no, I have no interest in tuning in on Tuesday to see what happens next.
Yeah, whereas I could have been so hyped if they had brought somebody else back and even if they weren't going to go with the Austin route, if they had put the belt on EC3 or something, that's well, then I'll probably tune in on Tuesday to see what he has to say as the new champ. There was something there to be said to get viewers to the next part of your product. And it maybe sort of just felt a little short there, but that has been the history of Impact Wrestling, and it'll seem to just keep trekking on forever and ever.
It sure has been. And they're happy with the eyeballs they have on the product. And speaking of eyeballs,
tomorrow we'll be talking all kinds of eyeballs. Look at that transition. Yes, everybody, if you're listening to this, more than likely on Sunday night, we are going to be doing our blow-by-blow of the WWE's horror show at Extreme Rules. So make sure you come back and catch our blow-by-blow coverage.
The Horror Rules at Extreme show?
Oh, maybe by tomorrow it might be, so...
Anyways, your eye ripped out. Yeah,
exactly. All kinds of fun stuff in the swamp. Chris, let everyone know where they can hear us.
You can listen to us live Wednesday nights on 887 FM radio in Ontario, or you can check out online 887theriver.ca. Find us under the archives, or listen along live on Wednesdays. Or you can find this podcast on Sounder and Spotify.
Perfect. That's right. All right. And here on YouTube, you can always like, share, and subscribe. Get the word going out there. Make sure you leave a comment here in the comment section if you've checked out the video. Let us know some feedback. We'd love to hear from everybody. And make sure you come back here for tomorrow's blow-by-blow of WWE's horror show at Extreme Rules. Chris, thanks for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Yes, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.